All right, says we're live. So great. Welcome to the Speed to Profit Marketing Hangout today. Today we're going to talk about learning to do magnetic marketing. So before we do, I want to welcome everybody. This is probably the 30th or 35th in our series of Speed to Profit Marketing Hangouts since I think January or February. And that's a whole lot of really good stuff that we've had the opportunity to discuss. The first, I don't know, 20 or so were hour long. We moved to half-hour format about 10 episodes ago, and that seems to work really well. Really appreciate those that are coming to contribute and make some noise, talk to us a little bit about their experience and so forth. So if I say the phrase magnetic marketing, anyone that's on, and I see the one that we had, one of the folks that we had disappeared, maybe he's afraid I'd ask him a question, oh dear. If I say the phrase magnetic marketing, what does that phrase mean? And if I get no volunteers, I'll just talk about it. But if anybody wants to say magnetic marketing, Christopher, I see you've unmuted yourself. What does magnetic marketing mean?
Well, something along the lines of that, which is an irresistible attractive force. Not that your prospects are full of iron, but at least they find themselves attracted to you, as opposed to magnetic marketing where you have two identical poles, in which case you're repelling your prospect.
Okay, so that's marketing that is attracting. Magnetic marketing means what it says. We use the word magnetic to mean some kind of attraction, right? So that's right. Opposite poles attract, similar poles repel. In marketing, it might be just the opposite. We tend to have rapport with people that we have similar experiences with. So we've talked about rapport before, and there are lots of ways to define it, and I'm not going to pretend this is the only or even the best way. But one way to think about rapport in marketing is if you have similar experiences, if you have similar goals, or a similar worldview. Similar experiences, let me give you some examples. Two people that went to the same elementary school, especially if they went anywhere near the same time, they can talk about the playground, the teachers, the neighborhood, the walk to school. I mean, immediately there's several hours worth of discussion that they can have if they want to. Any kind of experiences, someone that took skiing lessons or failed at skiing lessons or piano lessons or failed there, it doesn't matter. A similar experience gives you the opportunity to create immediate rapport with someone that's had one the same as you. A similar goal, so people that join groups together that are, you know, fundraising for the Boy Scouts or that belong to the same organization that have a certain goal. People that are in the same company, often if they, you know, meet and they have something to talk about, maybe Dilbert-esque, you know, all the things that are wrong with the company, or positively, but they have a similar goal. They have an immediate platform for rapport. Similar worldview might be similar political parties, similar religions, similar PTAs, you know, the kind of similar groups that give you an outlook on something. Those are all three big opportunities for creating rapport, and magnetic marketing has a lot to do with leveraging that rapport. So the first thing I talked about is three keys, and I'm going to talk about these three pieces that will help you create magnetic marketing, because the title of the Hangout was Do Magnetic Marketing Now. Often people think that marketing is something you have to do a lot of research to do. Research is valuable and is helpful, and you do need to do it. Feedback from the market is more valuable, more telling, and faster. So if you start with marketing, and I'm not proposing doing marketing without doing the research, because if you start especially if you're doing paid ads of any kind. Free marketing is one thing, just takes some time, but if you spend money on ads and you're not doing research at the same time, you end up wasting a lot of money, which I'm never an advocate of, because that's not a good way to start or run a business. But feedback or traction that you get from marketing is immediately valuable. The most valuable research you can do is to talk to your clients, survey your clients about what attracted them to you. What is it that attracted them to you? So that's valuable research, and I have found that magnetic marketing often comes, magnetic phrases, so literal phrases and powerful things that you can use, come very quickly from clients. So I'll ask a client, why are you my client? What did you find about me that attracted you to working with me? And they will say sometimes the most interesting things. Sometimes I will do ninja coaching, either in marketing or breakthrough work, and someone will say to me, well, it's just the energy. You provide me a big shot of energy every time we talk, and it makes me powerful and able to go do stuff. And so you know, that is a phrase. You provide me energy, I can get nowhere else. Hey, I'll use that for marketing. So surveying your clients is a powerful way to get good marketing. Doing market research on your avatar, narrowing your avatar, as we have talked about in other places and other Hangouts, all of those are ways to get phrases. So when I talk about magnetic marketing, I'm actually talking about the actual phrases that are powerful attractors that create that rapport. So the actual phrases that are going on in their minds and the actual phrases that would be spoken between two people at a water cooler if they were talking about, you know, a particular need. So, for example, if there's two employees at the same company and they're talking about a weekend, they're going to go skiing that weekend. I'm in Alberta this week, so I'm thinking about skiing. Maybe it's because it's an anti-Phoenix thing, right? It's 1 billion degrees in Phoenix right now, and it's very nice weather here in Edmonton. So, and the ski season is long and cold here. So anyway, two people are talking about skiing and they're talking about a resort, right? And the kind of language that they would use about what's good, attractive, or not attractive about that resort is more powerful marketing for that resort to use than sort of descriptive language about that the resort might come up with. So a resort in that way might talk about the number of runs that they have, and they might talk about the number of feet vertical drop that they have on particular runs, and they might talk about the number of chairlifts they have and the features of their resort in marketing. On the other hand, two people that have been there or are anticipating going there would talk about how much fun a particular run is or how exhilarating the experience is. That is more powerful marketing because it speaks to the emotion that the customer will have than simply a listing of the features of the resort. I know that because I've had ski passes for several resorts for season passes for a long time. So that's a personal experience as well, but it's something that I find true both with my clients and in my own marketing. So magnetic marketing is the kind of phrases that actually will attract, like a magnet, the kinds of clients that you want to have, the ones that resonate with you. So the 3 keys I wrote down I wanted to talk about are this. If you're selling a product or service, as all of you that I see on the film strip are and that most businesses are, and Speed to Profit Marketing is about business and entrepreneurship, one of the most powerful pieces that you can include in your marketing is an indication of your competence. Now, as soon as I say that, people think they're going to list their accomplishments. So I'm going to tell you about all the degrees that I have, or all the money that I've made, or all of the similar kinds of measures, and that is not attractive. Competence can be described a number of other ways. So, for example, competence is inferred by saying, well, using my system, my clients have achieved this or that, a result. So my clients have been able to increase their conversions by X%, or my clients have found themselves able to make better videos or be more powerful in their video presence. We talk a lot about video and Speed to Profit Marketing and how that conveys emotion, and it's one of the reasons Hangouts are so effective. So talking about your competence in terms of your clients' results is a powerful way to express your competence. And that is a very powerful feature in magnetic marketing. I'm going to list these to the 3 of them, and then I'm going to open it to discussion and questions that we might have before we go on. So a second thing is the 3 keys. The second one that I wrote down is confidence. Okay? Now you say confidence, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let me tell you something. We don't live in the information age anymore. Okay, we live in something I call the advisory age, which means we're buried in information. You and I, when we go online, there's ads everywhere, pop-ups and click-ups and pop-unders and whatever. We all have banner blindness. We ignore the right side Facebook ads. We ignore ads all over the place unless we're actually looking for something. However, when we're looking for something, we want to find it quickly, and we want it to work right now, and we want it to work perfectly for the problem that we have. And that's what I want, that's what you want. So your marketing needs to, if it's going to be magnetic, needs to exude that kind of confidence. Okay? So competence I like to express that in terms of my clients' results. Confidence means your ability to create certainty in the minds of your prospects that you absolutely can elegantly and completely solve the problem that they are struggling with. Now, before I get to the third one, I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm going to ask those of you that are in the film strip if you have comments or questions about those two, competence or confidence, as tools and important parts of magnetic marketing. Christopher, I see you've unmuted. You got a comment?
I was just thinking that, yeah, I deal with big data, and there clearly is no shortage of information out there. What people are looking for is what you call the advisor. I always called it the trusted guide, or the Sherpa, who's going to take you up the mountain and eventually get you to the pinnacle of the information that's most valuable to you.
I couldn't agree more, and so I call it an advisor, a Sherpa, a trusted guide. Absolutely, and the reason is because we're buried and we want shortcuts. I want shortcuts. I want to get an answer. I want it to work now, and I want it to work completely, without question. And the faster you can do it, the more you move up the food chain. It isn't the big that eat the small these days. It's the fast that eat the slow in terms of marketing. So being able to create that advisor position where you become the trusted person puts you in a completely different category. If someone comes to you once and you elegantly and completely solve a problem that they have, you get a status. You get a status of winner, a status of, there's a degree of trust. If it happens 2 or 3 times, you get a new status, a trusted advisor status. And that, I'm using that word, but it's someone that they feel like, I do this, and if you think about it, so do you. You go to a certain person, and you ask them advice. You basically take it, okay? You say, yeah, they're probably right, because of your experience with them. And that is the kind of relationship you want to create with your client. The way you do that is by quickly providing quick wins, quickly providing solutions even to small problems that they have. And again, that opportunity comes from creating the rapport that we talked about to start with. All right, that was one great comment. Are there others that have comments or questions about the first 2 things that we talked about, which is either expressing your own competence, not in terms of bragging, but in terms of results, particularly and most effectively results of others, and confidence, which is your confidence in the solution that you have, taking care of the client's problem in the most elegant and, above all, the fastest way possible. Any other comments or questions about those 2 items?
I just had a quick question. When it comes to confidence, are we talking about that notion that or actually competence too? We talked about the unconscious incompetence, and then you move your way gradually till you're consciously competent. But in terms of confidence, what is it that you are really trying to radiate, or what is the perception from someone else? Is there a special trick or bit of body language or anything that can help to build that confidence?
Okay, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So confidence comes from your own internal certainty. Okay, if I am uncertain about whether or not I can solve a particular problem, that uncertainty radiates. It radiates in the energy around us. We can all feel that. It's like when you're in a room and someone walks in and they're angry, you know it. Even if you're maybe not even looking at them, you're looking away, someone walks in the room, the atmosphere changes. We can sense and feel that energy. When you're speaking with people and you're talking about the solution to the problem, that if you're tentative, and I don't mean there's not even a fine line, there's a wide line between being pushy and abrasive and being absolutely confident that you can solve a problem. A person who's pushy and trying to be pushy or convincing often does most of the talking. Often the tone is one of convincing. Confidence, on the other hand, when I am in that space and I'm talking to someone about a marketing issue, I let them talk a lot, in fact, ask a lot of questions, and simply by the comments and suggestions that I make at different points in the conversation, it becomes absolutely clear to them that I absolutely understand the problem completely and that I have a solution, and perhaps the very best solution possible to that problem. So you ask about a certain bit of body language. The body language comes from two things. It comes from practice, because at first we're all perhaps awkward at presentations, awkward in video, awkward on, in public and in front of people, and sometimes even one-on-one feels like in front of people when you're trying to, quote, sell yourself. But it comes more than anything from your certainty about what you do. So, Christopher, you asked the question, so I'll talk to you. Specifically about your previous career as a chiropractor.
Right, and I was thinking along those lines too, because when patients would come to me and I did the consultation and the examination, there was a turning point. I think it was towards the end of the first 10 years in practice, where I just knew I could help somebody, and I would just tell them flat out, like, I can fix that. And that's something they tell you never to do, because you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But when I would encounter someone and go with that intuitive hunch, I just knew I could deliver what I was talking about.
And when you said that, so let's get to that. When you said that, the manner, the tonality, the micro expressions, the body language and everything was such that they didn't question, I would bet 90-something% of the time, they didn't question your affirmative declaration. They knew you could do it. It might be a question of money or number of treatments or how long or whatever, but not that you could do it.
And if there was something that I couldn't handle, they had supreme confidence that I had a big enough network where I could refer them to someone who could help them.
So you answer the question that you asked. What was it about the delivery or the process of your declaration that let you carry that confidence?
I think that the languaging was very strong. I was very relaxed in the way I would present it, almost conversational, but it was an emphatic conversation.
Okay.
There was no doubt in the words.
All right, good. So the answer to your question you have given, it comes from, and I experience the same thing both when I do marketing consultations and when I do breakthrough work with my breakthrough coaching clients. I have the same experience when the recording studio. Those of you that have followed me for a while know that I've owned a recording studio for 35 years, and I'm a recording artist, and I've done a lot of performing as well. But when people come in the studio and they have questions and they're worried about this, the same confidence, well, we can do this, 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 and this, and it'll solve it this way. And there isn't, are you sure? It just doesn't, that conversation just doesn't happen. It's like, oh, okay, how long will that take? Can I afford it? The kind of question in terms of studio purchases or whatever, but it was not a question of can it happen. And so it is your own, and you said it came after a certain time, 10 years.
It was probably about eight years or so. At that, within the first 10 years, there was a shift, and I think it's based on enough experience. Maybe it's that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing.
Okay, so there's a couple of perfect examples. Thank you. Any other comments from others about either competence or confidence in terms of creating languaging for magnetic marketing? No? Okay, good. Let's move on to the third key that I had written down. So I wrote down competence, confidence, and willingness. Now, willingness is an interesting one because willingness has three parts. Regardless of how good you are at what you do, there will come a time when you are wrong. Okay, so I'm talking about you as the provider, the willingness, right? There will come a time when you make mistakes. There will come a time when you are wrong. And your actions at that moment have a lot to do with how elevated your position in your niche gets. If you are able to say, you know what, that didn't work, let's do this, this, and this, and your level and depth of competence goes to a bunch of alternatives, and you immediately say, you know what, that didn't do what I thought, let's do this, this, and this, and we'll try these over here.
I can give you a great example of this.
Please do.
In a day and age when we are surrounded by lawyers and malpractice suits and everything else, I managed at one point to break a patient's rib. There was sufficient force. I think she probably had a stress fracture prior to working on her. And I just apologized. I said, you know, this has not happened before, this and that. And rather, because of the rapport that was built up, rather than think lawyers and lawsuits and malpractice, this patient says, that's okay, honey. Things like that happen. And we just sort of bandaged her up. Everything was fine, and she was quite happy. But I just went ahead and just said, look, this is what happened. I'm sorry this happened. Let's see what we can do to make things better. And she was very forgiving. And that's almost it's almost unheard of, mainly because I have another friend who had the similar experience, and the lawyers were coming out like sharks.
You know, I don't practice medicine, and so I've never been in a place of malpractice, and I cannot do anything except empathize with you, and I know Manny is a doctor, and that is, you know, firmly on the minds of professionals, doctors, lawyers, and even other kinds of professionals these days. But I have had similar experiences with work in the studio, where people have been, you know, producing high-pressure commercials and other kinds of things they were putting on the air, big budget projects that, you know, just had to say that didn't work. We'll just have to change it. We'll do this, this, and this, and it'll be done by this day. And I can tell you that that kind of an approach, particularly if you have the rapport that you talked about, is key. It is key to long-term relationships. If a person is dead set on ruining the relationship, burning the bridge, suing you, and getting rid of your life and milking everything and trying to go on easy street for the rest of their life because you screwed up, there isn't going to be a lot you're going to be able to do about that. I understand that, and there are people like that. I have known a few, and I won't tell the story now because it's not appropriate. But believe me, I've known a few. Okay, and so have you. So have we all. And they would take advantage of anyone as much as they could to. Joy's taken off. See you. She's still on here incognito. She's actually got to go to, guess who? The doctor. Ooh. In fact, it is a skincare doctor.
Good move.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so cool. You know, I have done that, and despite the fact that there are people like that, and despite the fact that those things exist, I choose personally to run my business and my life in the other way, which is to be more open about those things. If I practice one of those high, you know, malpractice areas, I might feel it or do it differently, and I certainly would not presume to counsel someone. I just know that that openness and approach and willingness to work with someone to admit when there's been a mistake or it needs to be a change in course, even a small one, and not pretend otherwise, has a lot to do with magnetic marketing and creating reputation. The second part of willingness is willingness on the part of the client. So if a client comes into a situation apprehensive, not really willing to make changes, the marketing approach that you use and language that you do that you use to advertise or to market your service won't matter very much, because they are coming in loaded with objections, and the intent is not willingness to find a solution. The intent is to find a problem with every solution that you offer. So again, those kinds of things won't solve that problem. So in my mind, there has to be competence, confidence, and willingness. And from that point of view, and thinking about the actual conversation that goes on in someone's mind, like we used the ski example, but you can think of immediately one that applies to your business. What is the language that they're actually using at the water cooler informally when they talk about the problem they're trying to solve that you solve for them? Let's say they're looking for marketing help. They're not saying, well, my marketing conversion isn't what it is. It's like, I can't get the friggin' customers to opt into my website. And so, okay, acknowledging the pain in the kind of language that they understand is going to get their attention a lot faster than optimized conversion strategies, because they feel like I'm talking at a level not connected with real life. And I found that to be true over and over again. All right. There were a couple of questions that were submitted ahead of time. I'm going to go to those here for a minute, but before I do, I want to open the mics to anyone. I see several people that are here. Any questions or comments that you would like to bring forward right now before I go to a couple of pre-submitted questions? I had one from, well, it doesn't matter who they're from Grizz, and then another one that I want to address on magnetic marketing. So questions or comments from Preston, Manny, Joyce, Gone, Craig, or Christopher?
I'll just give one more comment, only because the whole practice thing is fresh in my mind. Somebody asked me one time, it was a younger chiropractor, he said, what was it that changed in terms of how you practice, because he loved the way I was doing the adjustments, the treatment, everything else like that. And I said, you know, it was just this moment of recognizing that it was fearlessness. And I guess that's the confidence that you're talking about. But fearlessness was even a better descriptor, because it was as if, not that I could do no wrong, but that I wasn't afraid to try.
You know something, I really, really appreciate that, because in the willingness part, when I was talking about that third one, I said there were 3 parts, and I actually only covered 2 of them. One is willingness on the part of the client to find a solution. 2 is the willingness on the part of the provider to course correct when necessary. And the third one that I had actually written down and didn't cover was a willingness to try and keep trying alternatives and other things until you find a solution. So that willingness that you've expressed actually covered, thank you, a third point that I had listed that neglected to write down. So you're my straight man in the audience. Thank you, without even meaning to. I've just moved up to the comment section, and I see Manny's got a couple of comments. He's talking about marketing that attracts the right people, which is true. And he's got 2 in there, and I'll address the other one in a minute. You are trying to do that. You need to be thinking about marketing that repels the wrong client and attracts the right client. In the old days of broadcast marketing, like TV ads and billboards, newspaper, and all we had, sort of interruption marketing, you didn't really have a lot of choice. You just blasted and vomited your stuff out there and hoped that it landed on the right people. Okay? Today, with the targeting that you can do in social media and in other kinds of advertising and retargeting and all of the kinds of tools that are available now, you can narrowly target your advertising to dramatically increase, you know, who you're talking to. You're talking to the right people, people that have expressed or have some kind of an interest. And that doesn't mean you're only going to hit those. You're still doing some degree of others, but you're way more likely to be talking to the right people. So that's the first thing. Your marketing is intended to repel the right people and attract the right people. Or repel the wrong, which are the right, wrong people, or whatever. You know what I mean. The second thing that Manny wrote in here about malpractice that I thought was really interesting is malpractice happens when a patient feels undervalued or disdained or talked down to or something by the doctor. And that makes so much sense to me, and I'm glad that you said that, Manny, because when a person feels undervalued or like my opinion doesn't matter or anything else, it is easy to then look for a negative thing. Well, fine, I'll get you back. And that can happen no matter what your business is. One of the things that happen with, I know that I was talking to Joy about this, and she says she does it all the time with her doctor. One of the things that happens is what I call the IEP, the Internet Embarrassment Problem. And that is a doctor will have a patient, and my wife is a perfect candidate for this, who's researched everything up the wazoo on the internet, and she'll come in loaded with all kinds of questions, not to challenge, but she's trying to be an informed and powerful consumer. And so she'll come full of stuff, some of which is right, some of which is wrong, but it's stuff that she's gathered from her own research. People do the same to me with marketing questions. They do the same with alternative approaches to breakthrough work. They do the same with alternative approaches to studio work and other kinds of things that I do. So your attitude and approach at that moment is key to your ability to language magnetically to that person or repulsively, attract or repel. Be open, be willing to say, you know what, I actually have not heard of that. Let's explore that. Or, you know what, I heard of that, tried this, and here was the outcome. You know, there are a couple of ways to handle it. What you don't want to do is, I'm the professional here, and you actually don't know what you're talking about. So that sort of feeling, even if you don't language it that way. So that kind of repulsion is really devastating to a business at any level. All right, here's the 2 questions that I had submitted ahead of time. One is, someone asked taglines, about taglines for resharing. So I would apply just 2 pieces of advice. It said, what kind of taglines can you do for reshares, assuming in social media principally? Who are you resharing to, and what do you want them to do? So every piece of marketing that you write, whether it's video or words, when someone sees that or consumes that, what do you want them to do? You want them to click, smile, laugh, reshare, tell somebody. What is the outcome that you want them to take one. And two, when you're resharing something, who is the audience? Is it just a reshare to the general public? Well, then it's really hard to, to do anything that will be effective. If, on the other hand, you might reshare something to the public, but you target the words to a certain group that will probably see it, more effectively you reshare it to a smaller group, and then you talk about the feelings that you want them to have. You express your own. Wow, this particular thing affected me in this way, and it made me X. I went and supported this cause. I'm thinking right this minute of this sort of silliness of this, the ice bucket on the head for ALS that all of you have been seeing on the internet and on TV the last week or so. You say something. I want you to donate. I want you to dump an ice bucket on your head. I want you to participate in this challenge, right? And further, if you were to talk about the way you feel, you know what, I have a friend or a colleague that I knew with this particular ailment. It happens to be ALS. It could be anything. But you talk about the outcome you want, and you think about who you're sharing it with, and you language your reshare post in that way. The worst thing you can do is simply say, wow, I thought this was cool. Yeah, so what? It did what for you? It made me think about my own humanity, and it made me want to be a better person in these ways. And yes, you have to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. And someone may look at that and say, what, it made you feel like that, you idiot? Good. Because you're not really doing any marketing until you attract some haters. Okay? So that's what my advice would be on reshares. The other thing that I would, thank you, Manny. Manny wrote a comment here. That's brilliant. Thank you. The other question came in is, isn't this all just repackaged hype? And that's a good question, and I love it. It's a challenging question. The answer is yes and no. Yes, if you're full of hype, and all you're trying to do is convince people to buy stuff they don't need. Certainly and absolutely not if you're providing real solutions to real problems and you have real value to add. Because to the person that needs your benefit and solution, it's not hype at all, it's truth, and you're simply explaining the magnitude and elegance of the benefit that you provide. So whether or not it's hype depends on you, the provider, if you're providing real solutions to real problems, or if you're just spreading crap. So that's the thought about repackaged hype. Maybe is the answer, and it depends on who's doing it. If it's coming out of your mouth as hype, then yep, it's repackaged hype. If it's sincere, it's real, and provides real solutions to real problems, no. It's real marketing that real people need to solve real problems. All right, before we sign off, we're at our 34 minutes. We're a couple minutes over. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to open the mics. Questions, comments, jeers, cheers, or anything else? Preston, you haven't said anything. How are you today? Invisible.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute my mic. Is my mic working now? My wig?
You're working.
All right. All right. Sorry, man. I was just trying to get my equipment to work. Anyways, no, I agree with you on the, well, on all of them, actually. But the willingness is a huge factor, and I just had this happen, too, with one of our clients. Actually, a couple of our clients. We had, our webcams that were up and running fine, and all of a sudden all of them went down. We were like, what happened? And we had to actually figure out what happened, and we thought at first it was the government that took them down, and then we found out just by asking those questions. But I had one client that was really upset because he had another similar technology, and the company ignored him when things went wrong. And I dug in and I tried to figure it out, and I spent way too many hours with him, but now he's a happy customer again. So it's that willingness to go, I think, beyond the call of duty, if you will, and just really look at it and say, he's my customer, I need to take care of him, period.
And so let's just take this one little step further. If you think about that, the languaging that they gave you when they expressed their joy, their satisfaction with you solving the problem, is perfect marketing language. You're the guy that went above and beyond. You're the guy that didn't do what the other guys did, who left me hanging. So again, that's where you can find cool marketing phrases, magnetic marketing phrases, is in those moments of emotion that people express when you've done something above and beyond. And you say, well, my client, here's the phrase, write this down. My clients tell me that. My clients tell me that I'm the provider that goes above and beyond. My clients tell me that I'm the one that, and by being able to say, my clients tell me that, and put in words that your clients have said, man, that is a home run. My clients tell me that, because that's not you, that's your clients. So perfect example, thank you for that, and thank you for letting me pick on you and drag you in. Christopher, do you have more to add?
One more thing, which is like going up, Preston reminded me of this, because going above and beyond the call of duty, I remember it was about 2 years ago, one of my patients, and I gave my cell phone number to all of my patients, which is something people freak out when I tell them at conventions or seminars. But very few I've ever found in 27 years of practice have ever abused that. And I got a call from one of my patients. It was either Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend, from a mattress store. I'm getting advice on selecting the right mattress. And I did my best over the course of 10 minutes or so to make the recommendations. And she was so happy. She has never, ever forgotten that.
And what did that cost you? 10 minutes?
It cost me 10 minutes. And I enjoy her in terms of interacting with her. I mean, all my patients, you know, if they, I can't think of anybody that I really didn't like seeing. There may be a couple here or there who are a bit grumpy or so, but for the most part, I always enjoy interacting with my patients, and that would extend as I go into a new business, enjoy interacting with potential prospects.
So here's what I want you to take away from this, all of you. The above and beyond is a customer service thing, and we're going to talk about that on another Hangout. We're going to have a whole Hangout on customer service, what the new expectations are, how the world's changed, and everything else. The thing I want you to take out of the customer service examples that both of you guys just gave is, what was the language that they used to express their satisfaction that you can take and use in your marketing? Okay, the language that they gave you at different times when they expressed their pleasure, when they talked to others, when someone said, I heard that so-and-so said blah, blah, blah. All those blah, blah, blahs, those are the things that you write down and you use in your marketing language, because you can't invent them. You can't think of them and you can't invent them, because your customers will tell you why you're cool. And if you have sense enough to remember to write them down quickly, or to note them, or to remember them and then write them down later, and if you have, you know, presence of mind, pull out your camera and say, would you mind saying that on video? And a lot of people are going to say no, and here's a lot of people are going to say yes, and here's a way to get around that. You say, you know what, I love helping people just the way you described. Would you mind just saying that with me on a video here for a sec, so I can help more people just like I've helped you? And that will get rid of 95% of the objections. Okay, because you're telling them they're going to help other people. Some people will still not want to do it, but if you say, because I love to help people and because I want to help, you can help more people just like you if you'll just say that here on my camera. So anyway, that's a possibility, and it's something that I do also, and it's a way to get past people's objection of, what, you're going to film, blah, blah, blah. So anyway. Thank you all for attending. Manny's probably not able to talk. Joy's gone. Craig, I see you're at Iconish. If you want to say anything, please unmute and go ahead. Otherwise, we will be signing off. Hey.
I was going to say, that's Craig's brain right there. So.
Yeah, and I'm having some camera difficulties, so you're stuck with my brain.
All right, that's all right.
It's dark in there.
Yeah, it's a dark place, that's for sure. And one thing that I would add that you actually inspired me to do is we started looking at language, because we just recently recruited a phenomenal psychiatrist into our business. And one of her hallmarks is that when area psychiatrists needed help, they went to her.
Right.
And that message is one of the things that has it's really stuck with people. It's like, you know, she's the psychiatrist's psychiatrist.
Yeah, I became the chiropractor's chiropractor.
Right, right.
That works,
so.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Craig. I really appreciate that. And again, that's an example of taking opportunity to think about the language that will attract, that will be that magnetic attractor, and pull people into, into resonance and into rapport with your potential clients. So good. Thank you. We're a little bit over time. Any final comments?
Because I know you mentioned the languaging, and that is, if you can become your patient or your client or your customer's go-to guy or go-to gal, that's something to aspire to.
I completely agree. And that puts you in an elite position. in that niche, because it won't be very long before the word of that spreads around. And even if you hear someone even say that once, you can say, well, my customers tell me I'm the go-to guy.
Exactly.
Okay. Were they going to argue with your customer through you? What? They're not going to do it. So, you know, and it carries a ton of resonance. Well, my customers tell me I'm the go-to guy. I love that. Hey, you know, they can't argue. Your customer tell you that. So anyway, cool. All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, if you're inclined, we have Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Pacific, Break the Cage. We'll talk personal breakthrough stuff.